Hello everyone, I'm Annie Gibbins and you're listening to Memoirs of Successful Women, the podcast where you get to hear candid conversations with fascinating women from around the globe who share aspects of their business and life journey, how they measure their success and what they have learned along the way. Hello and welcome to Memoirs of Successful Women. Today I'm going to introduce you to Sherese Shy-Holmes, who's going to be telling us her adventure of her life so far, which has been absolutely crazy. It's a bit of a rags to almost riches on the pathway to riches and future success story. And I'm just really captivated, and I'll let Sherese actually share her own story of how you can go from an absolutely bit of a diabolic, oh my gosh, what is happening to my life situation, and then having some aha moments that goes, how am I going to get myself together here? How am I going to actually empower myself, love myself, believe in myself, to be able to change my circumstance and to start living and then be living the life that I want to live, the person that I want to be, the person that I actually am. So over to you. Welcome to the program, Sherese.
Thank you so much, Annie. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and share. I like how you described it as a rags to almost to riches story. I'm definitely on the way. It's coming, it's manifesting, it's going to happen. So I'm so appreciative of the journey overall. But to kind of get started, I was actually going through a divorce, and that have been through divorce, you know, that can take your credit. It can take your morale, depression, mental health, all those things can definitely kick in. Health issues can also kick in. So I was battling multiple issues at one time as I was going through the divorce. So part of that, my credit just tanked. So basically, like, as far as like a FICO score in the US, it was like low 500s, which means like no one would loan me money to buy water at that point. Like, they did not trust me to pay it back. So
you are seriously poor.
Wow. Exactly. So I was like, okay, I have to get out of this hole. You know, first things first, let's get out of this financial hole. So at the time, because my ex-husband was the primary breadwinner, I lived in like a custom built house, you know, custom furniture. All the interior decorations were just things that I had picked out and had someone come in and design. So I had to do that, moving into a 900 square foot, 1-bedroom apartment. So it was a huge reality check for me there. But I was struggling. Like, I was struggling to pay the rent because at the time I was only making around $37,000 a year. Yeah. And in California, that's like pennies to live on. But I was so used to having, you know, at least a decent place to live and, you know, security and all that kind of stuff. So eventually I couldn't afford the place. I was working 2 jobs and I still couldn't afford the place. So I had to break my lease, and I ended up moving in. I was looking for just one roommate, Annie, just one. Turns out I couldn't afford it. So I ended up moving in with 4 other women and 2 dogs.
Oh, nightmare.
Yes. You know what? I thought it was a nightmare, but I think that was like God's love in disguise, because I ended up developing some phenomenal relationships with these women. We're still friends to this day. Every time I fly back to California, they hang out with me. So they still send me birthday gifts. I send them birthday gifts. So we became like a little family. So it was a blessing in disguise. I actually did not realize how much I needed their friendship in my moment of despair. Mm-hmm. And I remember telling my roommate when I first moved in, it was just like stark and stoic. And I was like, listen, I'm just here for a place to lay my head. I don't want to be anybody's friend. I'm not looking for happy hour or Taco Tuesday. I don't want any of that. I just need a place to live. And she was like, okay.
I don't want all the trimmings. I just need a bed. I need safety and security. Like,
exactly.
Hold off your love or judgment.
It was probably the love. I was just like in a dark place, you know, and I didn't feel lovable at the time. And I just felt like I was alone. So I created a greater wall of isolation, even when I moved into a place with 4 other women.
Isn't that amazing?
So it was the perfect setup though, because my roommate, the one that ended up bringing me into the house, she started chipping away at my walls very simply. And every time when I would come in from work, she'd be like, "How was your day?" And I'd be like, "Fine." And then go in my room and close the door. And so after her doing that, I think for about 2 or 3 months, I finally got to a place like, Sherese, get out of your own head, get out of your ego, your issues, what's going on with you, and ask her how her day is going. And literally, it was just from her being consistent and showing kindness when I wasn't being kind to myself that started to bring me out of my shell. So that's when our friendship started. So I started asking her, "Well, how was your day?" Because she's a teacher. And she would like go into all these details. And I'd be like, "Oh gosh, this was more than I expected." But after a while, I actually started to enjoy the stories because she worked with emotionally disturbed children. So they came through all kinds of traumas and different backgrounds. And I guess to some degree, I was able to connect with the pain that they were experiencing and the love that she was giving them. And I guess she was doing the same thing to me in the house. So we were able to build this amazing friendship that expanded out to the other women that were also in the house. So that was the transition of healing on the relationship side for me. But I'm going to tell you like the most pivotal moment where I was like, okay, enough is enough. So I had started to believe, because so many bad things had happened to me, I kept telling myself that I was cursed. I literally was saying those words out of my mouth, which I didn't realize were so powerful and destructive, ingrained into your thoughts, your just everything. They all line up and it attracts exactly what you believe you deserve.
100%.
So yeah, so I was going through divorce. I was having a horrible time at work, just absolutely horrible time with my managers. Everything was it was bad. And so I remember as part of the divorce, I told myself, like, I'm going to go get a car that I really want. So I got myself a black Mustang convertible. And yeah, I chopped my hair off, dyed it, bleached it blonde. I mean,
wow, this is a rebirth of a new woman.
Mm-hmm. So I thought, and that was me focusing on all of the outward expressions of how to write. But I didn't realize
you're just going, if I change my image, my look and feel, then I'll magically be better. I'll magically be fulfilled. Right.
Mm-hmm. And that didn't help. But I didn't know. And it wasn't until my bedroom in this house with the 4 other women was literally right on the front. So you could open the windows and it was right on the front. You could see the cars that were parked, our driveway, all of that. And I remember like walking from the laundry room, I had a basket of clothes in my hand and all I could hear was these tires like screeching. And then you just hear bang, bang, bang. And I was like, oh my God, I just knew my car had got hit. So I run to the window and I dropped my basket, and literally the whole street is lined with cars parked on the curb. Guess who's the only car that got hit? And so I think one person was driving down the street and another was pulling out. I believe he was making a right. So he misjudged how closely he was to the other person. So he hit them. And when he hit that truck, it spun around and then it hit the only parked car, which was my car. And so it broke my axles, like all kinds of stuff. And I remember looking out the window and the guy's truck had flipped over from hitting my car. And I remember thinking super selfish, like, oh my God, my car. He just hit my car. And then I snapped out of it and I was like, go outside and see if this man's okay. Like his truck flipped over. Why about your stupid car? Nobody was in it. And so I go outside, I see if he's okay. And then we get to a point where, we're exchanging information and, here's your insurance, all that. And then I go back inside the house and I remember just staring, looking out the door and tears were running down my face. And I told my roommate came up from behind me and I was like, I'm cursed. Like I'm cursed. Everything I do just ends up in a horrible, horrible mess. And she just said very softly behind me, she was like, what if you're welcoming all this? And I was like, what? She's like, yeah, maybe you're welcoming all this. And at that point, I understood, but didn't fully understand. So I just began to process, and I was like, okay, maybe because I keep saying I'm cursed, it's not the other way around where bad luck just happens to me, but because I keep saying those things, I'm actually creating this environment for all these bad things to happen.
The law of attraction in the wrong direction.
Exactly. And so literally that was the choice. I said, okay, I'm done. I'm no longer going to speak these words that I'm cursed. And I no longer accept or invite bad luck, bad things to happen to me in my life. From now on, moving forward, things are going to get better.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, this is those listening in. This is the moment you want to have. If you haven't had that moment yet, you want to actually just stop here now and actually go, I need to have this moment. Exactly. Mm-hmm. There is so much that you're sharing now this is a huge revelation. It's a huge revelation. The words that you tell yourself are the way you then are, the way you be to the world, right? Exactly. Right. And what you attract, 100% what you attract.
Exactly.
This is absolutely huge. Okay, sorry to interrupt you. I love
it.
This is an aha moment for the listeners. Like, oh my gosh, this is huge. It is huge. It's not all about, that's right, everything bad. When you're looking at the negative, you will find negative. It doesn't attack you personally. You don't get a bee that just comes and deliberately finds you and stings you, right? You don't get paranoid about, oh my gosh, every bad thing in the world happens to me. But it feels like that when you're in that space, right? Doesn't it? It's like, oh, that'd be right. Out of all the cars, they happen to smash into my car. It was almost probably deliberate, in your mind at that time, right?
Right. And then, so of course, I'm just like, okay, there's a way out. I just need to start working on what I'm saying. But at a deeper level, of course, when you start to get into that realm, at a deeper level, it's not just about what you're saying, it's about what you're thinking. And so much of it was rooted in I'm unlovable, I'm unworthy, I'm not good enough. And so those thoughts, I realized, is what I had to, I won't even say attack, but more like reframe, repattern, rewire into worthiness, into abundance, into gratitude, to gently shift myself out of these consistent negative things that kept happening to me one by one. And so I just said to myself, okay, pull it together. If you talked yourself into this place, you thought yourself into this place, then obviously the reverse should work, and I didn't really know much about it. And so I just began to start with catching what I call now as a coach, I call it catch and redirect. Yeah. So the strategy is to catch that limiting belief, that resistance, those negative words, scarcity stories that we tell ourselves. And you first obviously identify it as such. And then you redirect it with some reframe that you've created. It's almost like playing ping pong. Like that negative thing comes over to you and you pop it back. Yeah. And send it back with something that you believe to be positive and you believe to be true. So it was not, I'm not going to say like in 3 months I manifested, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it was a lot of work because I had to undo so much. Yes.
Yeah. And you've got to unpack a lot of negative narrative. You got to create habits, right? New habits, because your default is very strong at this stage.
Right. Yes.
When you take your eye off that ping pong, it will, you'll
smack you in the head.
Smack you in the head, and it'll automatically do what you've done before because you've been used to that. So it doesn't. That's right. It doesn't just happen overnight.
Exactly. So part of that was me reintegrating or reintroducing myself to things that I love to do, because I had pretty much shut myself off from all of that. So I was very focused on producing and working and delivering and being what everybody else wanted me to do and pleasing everybody else. And at the time when I started going through divorce, it kind of like everybody kind of separated, So it was just this emptiness, almost a vacuum. And I was like, okay, well, what do you want to do, Sherese? What do you like? So it was me tapping into who I truly am and what do I actually want to do with myself. And then, of course, there was definitely some therapy involved, maybe some cocktails too, here and there, right? A little wine therapy. Right? But I managed to get myself out of that. So I think I would say the first The first good thing for sure was the relationship I had with my roommates, right? So we became really tight, and our families started to get to know each other. It was almost like we had all become sisters. So that was the first major change for me. But the second one, I would say, on a financial level, is about I shifted out of being in an angry place with my manager and just I would come in resentful and just like, I don't want to be here, you know? I'm being treated unfairly and all of that. So I decided, okay, you cannot continue to go into work like this. You need to shift your mindset. So I was like, okay, God, what is it that I need to learn so that I can get out of here? What lesson do I need to process? Do I need to understand? And so the word that came to me was gratitude. So I was like, okay, gratitude. I can be grateful that I have a job right now. And I can be grateful for, and I just started off with just turning the tide of the resentment and the anger of the treatment that I was receiving at work and just shifting it into a place of gratitude. Now, in that time period, I am literally not exaggerating because I counted how many job applications I put in. Until I changed my mindset about the job, I had put in over 62 applications and was denied. Some even to the point where I got interviews and then they would call me. Twice this happened. They call me and say, we lost the budget position, so we will not be able to interview you. I don't even know who that happens to. Yes. So I said, okay, I'm shifting into a place of gratitude. And I remember hearing some stories that were happening with my grandfather in Chicago. And I became really concerned. And I was like, okay, my grandma really needs help. So I was like, all right, maybe I'll move to Chicago. And I was like, I'm not about to fill out another 62 applications. I put in 3 applications and I got 3 offers.
Wow.
It's that simple shift of me shifting into gratitude and focusing on what I do have instead of the deficit of what I don't have or how I should be getting treated and all these negative things that I kept telling myself. It relieved so much tension and even like my health got better because of it. So I ended up
like even the people receiving those letters, like I know, we're not saying that everyone, if you put in the application, you'll get it the next day. But, there's so much in that application. It's the language you use. It's the tone. It's when you show up to interview. It's the body language. It's the way you express things, the way you respond to the questions that you're not expecting. It's so much is packaged to that mind shift of when you're talking about, I just had to have an attitude of gratitude. Yeah, that's right. Rather than I need this job, I want this job, this is all for me. That's right. When you're working for someone, I know that as a CEO, it's kind of like going, well, I'm offering an opportunity for you to join our business, but it's then also our family. It's our baby that you've got to love. Do I actually feel all of that from that person, that cultural fit, which when you have that attitude of gratitude, I think it is very different. And so from the other side, it seems quite stark from the people who are desperate and all about themselves, which is understandable, totally understandable from the situation, to actually changing that, going, I'm here, I'd love you. I believe I have a lot to offer and I'd love to be, part of what we can create together. It's very, very different. So back to you, Sherese.
I think you said something that was really good. And I actually never thought about that until you mentioned it now. The language you use, when your mindset is different, how you fill out applications and even discuss your skills and your ability will come out completely different with from a tone of desperation or even anger or resentment to a tone of gratitude and abundance. And yes, these are my skills and this is how I can help you all transition to the next level. Like that makes a huge difference. I actually didn't think about that, but you're so right. So maybe that's why I applied for 3 and I got 3 for 3. So I ended up taking a position and moving to Chicago with my grandparents and helping them out. And within a year, I said, okay, now I need to focus on my credit. Okay. So friendships, I've got a good job now. Good managers fully support me. I got a ton of autonomy. I was getting promoted rather quickly. I think within like the first 2 years, I ended up winning like a national organization type award. So I was getting a lot of favor. It was just a perfect alignment for me there. Complete night and day from where I had come from. And so within the first year of me moving in with my grandparents, I decided, okay, now's the time for me to clean up my credit and reestablish myself. I literally on the year mark put an offer in for, I always wanted to be a real estate mogul. Like, I was like, I'm going to own all these apartment buildings and commercial properties and all of that. So I said, okay, I'm not buying a house. I want to buy, a 2-flat, 2 apartments in the building. And or at the very minimum 2, right? So I was going for 3 or 4, but 2 was the minimum. And so the offer I put in almost at the year mark of me living with my grandparents, literally raising my credit score, I think something like 180 points, and having the money for the down payment, and having the tenacity to believe that I could do that as a single woman, because I had not seen it done in my family. So there was a part of me that was, you can't really do this. You're a single woman. And I'm like, okay, we're going to stop.
Stop with the can't. Yeah.
Yes.
What if you can? What if you can? What if you can be the one? What if you can set the whole new tone for, yourself and your family? Generations after you will go, she was our pioneer. She believed. Wow.
And I didn't know this at the time, but my grandfather told me the reason why he had never bought a house is because he was afraid of the debt. And the day I was supposed to sign for the building, I had a massive, massive anxiety attack. To the point, it's funny, but it wasn't funny when it happened, to the point where I was on the floor, eyes bloodshot red, like entire skin puffy, and was just bawling my eyes out because the amount of debt made me feel like it was going to crush me. Yeah. And all I could think about is that I'm alone. What if this? What if that? What if this? What if that? And so I remember a friend calling me and kind of like repeating back to me the things that I had been saying to them this entire time of what I was going to do and how I was going to get it done and all the boss things that I had been saying prior to. He's like, if you don't get up and get in your car and go to that closing, we're going to have a problem. So I made it puffy eyes and all, and I signed for it. And when I tell you I signed the papers, it was like a sigh of relief. And I was like, no, I'm supposed to be here. This is what I'm supposed to do. And literally, it was like, it just went away. All that anxiety went away. And so I was like, all right, next thing, let's start paying off more debt. So I paid off my car 2 years early. And then I got really focused on my coaching business. And so then I launched my coaching business back in 2018. And I would say this year, I am on track to hit 6 figures by the end of the year. So it's been a full 180 for me as far as my growth and transition, personally, spiritually, emotionally, and just learning to embrace all of me, the good, the bad, the ugly, the pretty, the beautiful, the things people praise, the things people talk about, and know that most of the time, that stuff is, even when people are amazed at your gifts or your talents, that stuff really has nothing to do with me. It's about them, and what they think. It's their judgment. Right. So
it's their value often too. It's usually lies to what they value. So if they value, that's an important thing, then they'll notice it and they'll tell you how amazing that is. And if they don't value it, they won't. It doesn't actually make what you're doing better or worse. It's totally their perspective, and that's another aha moment, right? When you actually realize, if you're this, for those women who are sitting there waiting for the affirmations, the encouragement,
approval,
that approval, what you, for some reason, we desperately crave, it's another massive growth shift when you go, I can do it without their approval. And even if I get negative feedback, it actually doesn't mean what I am doing is negative. It's an amazing shift when you actually, I call it in my coaching world, when you show up and, and you own it. So it's different to show up. You chose to stand up or step up at that first moment. You go, I'm going to do this. You've stepped up to the plate. You've then shown up, and then you had that moment of, I'm having a total panic attack. I'm having a meltdown. When I show up, how am I showing up, right? Am I showing up as my best self? Am I showing up petrified, terrified, possibly. But if I push myself out of my comfort zone just a wee bit, sign those papers, back myself, that's when you actually, step out into your greatness, step out into your authenticity, and you own it. And what your story has shown me at that moment, when you sign those papers, you owned Sherese. You actually have I'm having a self-love month next month in my academy, and I'm actually going to share your story for that, because
wow,
your testimony there is actually exactly that self-love moment where you go, I know I can stand up and step up at different times, but you actually have these moments in time that you go, I'm going to own it. I'm going to own it, not just for the wealth, not for the Mustang. I'm actually going to own it for me, because you deserve more. You were born on this planet for a reason. You actually deserve to be yourself in your true essence, and be blessed by just being you. It doesn't mean that you're going to make multi-millions. The outcome of that is subject to many, many, many elements, right? But just by there, I'd love you to tell us a bit more about your feelings on that day when you actually changed and you went, yeah, okay, I had this moment. I started showing up as myself and I stepped up to the plate. And then you did have that ownership moment, so what is that feeling? You described it as relief,
Yes.
So it is a relief of I've done it, but it also, what does it feel? What's the shift in that emotion?
So it was not necessarily a relief that I've done it. It was a relief like I can do it.
Yes.
So it was a shift of whatever I thought, because I haven't seen anyone in my family do it before, or because I'm single, or because I'm a woman, or all the other like limiting beliefs that I was telling myself in that moment. When I finally signed the papers, the relief is those things actually don't matter. None of them matter. You still signed the paper. They still thought you were, in this case, they still thought you were worthy.
Exactly. They don't know. They don't know you're some real estate Mongol and all the dreams that you said you were going to be. They don't know that. You're just a person who has an opportunity to sign a paper and to do their next deal, right? So
yeah, exactly.
That's amazing thing. So one side of your family can go, oh my gosh, you can't. You've got all these reasons why it's limiting. And someone else just goes and says, hey, you're here and you've got the opportunity, sign the papers, do it.
Right. Yeah. You look like you can handle it, And I was like, it was just shifting into that awareness of I can do it. Like I am capable. And it would have the opportunity, and this is something that I always tell myself now moving forward, of just the statements of I am enough. Even when it comes to speaking engagements or opportunities to speak on larger platforms or invitations to teach in places that I've never been before, the opportunity would never present itself if you weren't capable, if you weren't enough, if you weren't adequate. So that questioning, that line of questioning just needs to go out the window, because somebody somewhere believed you had something valuable to bring, to teach, to give. And that's all that really matters. You don't need to, at this point, the opportunity has been presented to you, and it's more or less, let me check my calendar, not let me check my ego and my self-esteem and my confidence and all the things that my mother said about my voice. And you know what I'm saying? Like that weird stuff.
We rely on that. We'd never do anything. And that's why a lot of people are stuck, because they're still relying on that. The amount of critique and feedback and negative feedback I've received, and I'm sure you've received, you're never going to be everyone's cup of tea. So they're going to criticize. Exactly. That's right. Your voice, your presence, your backdrop, your everything. Some people are just what we call negative Nancy's. Sorry, Nancy. Yeah. They just got that, critical spirit, and it just wants to bring you down, and it'll stop you in the tracks if you believe that. The other side of that, that's right, when you're given those opportunities, and when you said someone believes in you, because if you rely on your self-talk, you'll never be enough. You'll never be ready. There's always that, I better practice this a bit more, polish this up, try and get a little bit more known here, whatever. You're just stalling, right? You're actually sabotaging yourself, because some people don't have all these conditions on you. It's amazing what's actually out there in front of you. And that's right. One, if you're offered it, hello, that's just like a red rag to a bull. You just like go for it, right? Just
right.
that's your lucky start. If people are actually reaching out and say, would you like to, you go, yes.
Right.
If it aligns obviously with what you're pursuing. And then but then there's the next level down, which I'm sure you found, that you actually go, no, I'm actually going to lean in and claim it. Right, there's opportunity that you go, I haven't been asked, but hey, I'd love to do it. I'm going to just go anyway.
Yes.
And it is amazing the opportunities that will come just because you position yourself that you're there.
Yes.
Ready, you're enthusiastic, you believe that you're more than capable. So hello, take me if you wish. And a lot of the times people go, oh, thank you, I was just looking for someone.
Yes, it's like perfect alignment, perfect time. I remember, this actually brings me to my memory of my very first podcast interview. I remember when she reached out to me, I was just helping her business. She sells like teas and natural herbs and things. And she also had a podcast, which I thought this is completely unrelated. You don't talk about business. I don't know why she would ever even offer it to me, but I was teaching her how to set up her Instagram and Facebook and build out her marketing plan. And she said, in one of our sessions, she said, I want you to come on my podcast. I was like, what? Me? No, I've never, And she's like, no, Sheree. I mean, she must have spent a good 20 minutes convincing me that I was worthy. Yeah. And it was hard to say no. You know how some people are like, you're going to do this, So I'm glad that she did it in a loving way and kind of forced me out of my shell. And the podcast was literally like you and I are talking right now, just like friends chatting and sharing experiences. Yeah. And I was like, why was I afraid again?
Exactly. Isn't it amazing when you are terrified? Sometimes you can be terrified. I'm talking, I've coached people who are just like so petrified about taking a next step. And every single one of them, once you just take that step and you had that experience, go, oh my gosh, what was I? So, the world didn't fall down. I didn't die. Even if I found it uncomfortable, and I've had people who even come out in little sweat rashes, you'll go all red and blotchy because they're just stressed. They're pretending they're not stressed, but I can see physically they're stressed. But you know what? I go, you go, girl, because that's right. Once you do it 1 time, 2 times, 5 times, 10 times, all of a sudden you just go, yeah, no stress. It's just amazing. In every single situation, whether it's public speaking, going on a podcast, growing your business, doing a pitch at work, doing a deal to grow or scale your business or collaborate with someone else, anything that you do that you haven't done before, you will automatically, your body will put the handbrakes on, right? It's just they're wired. It's a self-protective mechanism. Exactly. So you should actually expect the negative. You should expect the handbrakes to be applied, because your body goes and says, whoa, Sherese, what do you think?
Never done that before. Yeah.
Hurt here, and you've been hurt before. You don't want to go to that place, right? And seriously, everybody will have that. I have that. Everyone I meet has had those moments. It's normal. It's when you actually go, this is going to happen. I'm going to go and step up, and I'm going to sign those papers, do that pitch, have this moment, and it is going to feel really uncomfortable. And I'm going to breathe through it. And I've already documented, and I'm sure you do this in your coaching, you've written down the reasons why it is important for you. And I know them, and I own them, and I'm going to use them as affirmations. I am good enough. I am valued. I am capable. I am smart. I am worthy of this benefit or this goal or this achievement, or that just this love, if it's a relationship. And then when you actually step forth, and sometimes it's just such a little mini step, some of them are leaps, some of them are crazy, and sometimes they're just like, it's a step. It's like you looking out at the Mustang and going, what the hell, what was I thinking? Why am I so much more upset about a car than someone's safety, someone's life who could have been hurt, right? And that's when you just go, it's a moment to step out and go, I'm going to step out in a different way. I'm going to step out and own it as my best self. I'm going to step out in the way that I would want to be known for, rather than my, it's almost like stepping up with the worst scenario. You can actually step up with your best self. I love that. I love your journey that it has shared that. So your life really changed from that moment of
it sure did.
Getting your credit right, signing your papers, setting up your own business. And I'm sure you've had so many moments of, oh my gosh, this is new. How do I do this? Am I capable?
Yeah. So I will say this, like with my clients, and really what I would just tell myself is like, take the pressure off when you're just getting started trying something new, whether it's going live or whether it's just showing up differently or in a more powerful manner in your business. Just, you're going to screw it up. You're going to screw it up. You're going to bumble. You're going to stumble. I mean, you think of it like the hero's journey, right? The hero, when they're, especially if it's like a newer-ish hero, I'm just thinking of Spider-Man right now. But when you first get your new superpowers and you're kind of like walking into it, you're going to screw some stuff up. Like, somebody's going to get hurt. More often than not, it's probably going to be you, or you're going to do something wrong. You're going to blow some stuff up, mess some things up on the way. Just accept that. I tell them all the time, listen, just go live. I don't care.
Yeah.
Freeze, look like a deer in headlights, shake. I don't care. You're going to mess it up. But as long as you keep showing up, you have an opportunity to go back and be a little bit better than you did last time. And that just kind of takes the pressure off of the whole thing and just allowing yourself to kind of like step into your fullness, step into your power, step into your authenticity and being able to own it. I wouldn't always used to talk like this. I used to be very rigid, answer the questions that were asked of me and stay on task and on point, and then get upset that I forgot to mention a point that I had written down previously and critique the heck out of myself and shift into perfection. Honestly, that perfection and the procrastination, those things are both rooted in fear. All of it's rooted in fear. And I'm sure, as you know, I mean, the fear is not real. We're not in any real, there's no saber-toothed tiger coming to get you right now. Why?
Exactly.
No. Like,
what are we fearful? We're fearful about being embarrassed. We're fearful about other people judging us. We're fearful that we were going to make it amazing and it wasn't amazing. We're going to fear that we, had bad hair like I do because I've got COVID hair at the moment. We're fearful that, it's an epic fail. And that's right. They're all just self-imposed fears, right? Even if that worst situation happened, that's right. The saber-toothed tiger is not coming in your door. The world is not falling over. It's not the way. I have done so many hilarious epic fails in different versions of my business and bits and pieces. I look back now and go, oh my gosh. But if I actually stayed in that, what if it's not perfect, I would never have done any of them. I call it falling forward. And I think that's a really nice way of looking at it, that you go, I'm expecting it'll be a growth time, but as long as I am doing it and having, sometimes it's not even an epic fail. It might just be, it wasn't that great, but that's okay, because what do you want to do? Like anything, if I'm coaching someone to go for an interview, you don't get it. Well, what was the first thing you do? Don't just go and hide under the doona. Actually ring them up and go, I'm so, the person who got this job must be amazing. I would love to know what qualities did they have that I didn't have at this time? What could I learn from that? Do you have any feedback for me? Because then you're falling forward, right? You're growing forward. And so you have a choice, that choice to go, it's a fail and I'm going to just wallow, or I actually have an opportunity to learn and grow, and, and accept that change that view of, embracing the fear of all the critique. And at the end of the day, who cares? You get to where I'm at. Oh, I don't care. If you don't like me, unfriend me. I'm okay. I don't need more friends. Because you actually go to another zone, right? It's like when you're totally in your own space, it's like you're not going to be everyone's cup of tea. Everything you do for the first time is not going to be an epic success. It's unlikely. In fact, if you've got the Richard Branson's view on life, it's kind of like going, well, if it was a success immediately, it probably wasn't big and bold enough. Right? You should have believed bigger. It's like you should be regularly, having stumbling blocks and aligning yourself almost with people who are just so much in that next level that you want to stumble and fall forward until you're at that next level. It's a growth opportunity.
Exactly.
So there are so many different ways of approaching this. And that's right. And if we come back to the beginning of our conversation where, you suddenly went from, that's right, being in a marriage and having possessions and living a nice life, and then suddenly going, oh my gosh, I'm in a share house of 5 women. That's right. And I even did that. I defaulted and went, oh my gosh, what a nightmare. Because it could be, but also, hey, here I am, a women's empowerment coach globally. What an amazing opportunity. It could have been, because if they were all toxic and having all their toxic moments, that could have been a whoa, incredible cocktail. But it also could have been a total love bomb, and it doesn't have to be all. You just found one. You found one beautiful, beautiful woman who was actually there for you at that time to get over yourself, to show you that you are worthy, that you are going to be okay, that you actually needed to have that time, to find yourself. It's interesting. I've met so many people who are, have, moved from young adulthood into relationships and been in either a number of relationships, whatever, and they've never stopped and had that time to actually find out who they are. So although incredibly traumatic, and we certainly don't want everyone to have to go through the experience that you've had, never
not.
But because you did, and that was your journey, it actually did. The Sherese you are today would be so different than if you had stayed in that marriage and you were that person. It must just feel like a different person, right?
I know for a fact. I was, and this is me embracing my darkness, I was self-righteous. And when I would see people struggle or go through situations in their marriage or with their children, I would just be like, well, why can't you just do the right thing? I was very much like, you need to get yourself together.
Yeah, right.
Not understanding or having experienced life myself. Once I went through that, it created a deep level of compassion for other people and even for myself. And it kind of reminds me of, again, stepping into your power. When babies start to learn how to move from the crawling stage to the walking stage and they stumble and fall around, we don't yell at them and be like, just sit down, just go back to crawling. So you're just falling all over the place. We encourage them and we cheer them on and we celebrate them. Yeah. And we imitate them sometimes.
Exactly.
So that level of compassion was not only birthed for other people, but for myself. I had to become compassionate about me learning how to adult, about learning how to be on my own, what it's like to be a single woman and understanding, because I basically moved from my father's house into getting into marriage. So I didn't really have that. It was a very short period in which I was actually single. I think I got married when I was like 20, 21, 22. So it's a very short time going through college, living with my family, and then getting married. So I needed that moment to find myself and again, develop that compassion, develop the sensitivity, to understand humanity. And it made me dive deeper into like, why do humans do the things that they do? Which is like a slow path into, the coaching arena at the same time, and not wanting other people to experience the things that I've experienced. But I ended up realizing over time that I was attracting a lot with my life coaching side. I was attracting a lot of people who wanted life coaching, but they wanted me to help them with their business. And I have multiple degrees in business.
Yeah.
That's what my career was. And I was like, okay, this just makes sense. So I just shifted into being a business coach, but very, very heavy on the mindset side. So I learned how to marriage both sides of my strengths together in my business. And it makes for powerful results for the women that I've been able to work with. But again, just having that, we just have compassion.
Yeah.
We talk to a child the same way you talk to yourself. We can just start right there. The answer is no. We need to go back to the drawing board on our self-talk.
Self-talk is absolutely key. You need to stop and just go, that's right. Would you let anyone else speak to you the way you speak to yourself? That would stop you in your tracks. It's like, no, you need to be, considering the world is harsh, the world is judgmental, the world is challenging, that's right. Yes, that's why this self-love, which is what we're actually founding this conversation around, is actually saying, you love yourself first in the right way. Not saying you're better than anyone else. You're not. You're actually not better than anyone else. But you are you have the right, you're right, and you should be honoring yourself to be that best version of yourself.
Yes.
And then you can then, that's right, be the best version in your business, in your relationships, in all the things that you want to pursue. And why you are using that negative self-talk and that and then sort of being limited by all of these anchors of what other people have said or what you've told yourself, healthy adult, which is what, even adulting, you can be an immature adult, it's about a healthy adult actually goes and says, who am I? Who was I born to be? What are my natural, loves, passions, things that excite me, things that I'm more than capable of? How can I grow that into getting that perfect blend, right? Personally and professionally. How can I get more educated in a certain way, more equipped so that I can really own that and stand up and be blessed by the opportunities that will brings, like you have.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is super cool. So you haven't actually become the real estate Mongol.
No, I have not, but I feel like it's on the wings, definitely, for sure. Yes.
It's definitely in the future. And that's what I had a giggle there, because generally when you've planted a seed, I know from those people that I share with, when you've had that little dream of this is what I thought I'd do, somewhere in your future that will come back. And it's not always a stepping stone immediately. It's something that if it's been in your heart, never say never of what comes.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
I think it was just more or less me watching people who took on too much real estate too fast and then lose everything.
Yeah.
So I was shifting more to a low debt model, which means I want to pay down or pay off more before I acquire more things. I could definitely just go out and buy a bunch of stuff, but I'm trying to be responsible so that if any recession or COVID or whatever, you don't say, oh my God, I have all these tenants, they're not paying rent. And people are losing their buildings now. And I was like, it's not going to be me. So it's okay to pace myself.
Absolutely. Always pace yourself. I have enjoyed this conversation so much. I can't believe we're almost coming back up to an hour.
Wow.
How do people find you? How do they reach out to you, Sherese, if they love coaching, connect with you, ask you some questions?
So I love to hang out on Instagram. That's probably my primary place. So if you want to follow me on Instagram, it is at the Biz Doula. It's the Biz B-I-Z and Doula Doula. And you can also find me on Facebook using the same exact name. And you can go to my website, which is thebizdoula.com. And those are the ways that you guys can find me. We can hang out and, send me a message like, hey, I heard your podcast episode. You're insane, or I loved it, or something. I'd love to hear from the listeners.
Fantastic. Well, I will definitely put those details about the Biz Doula on my podcast platform. It'll be on my website, anniegibbins.com. It'll also be on my YouTube platform. You'll be able to reach out to Sherese. That's what the Memoirs of Successful Women is all about. Just really getting to know a whole lot of the breadth of woman, I call it, the breadth of woman around the world, of different things that we're doing and the experiences that we've had. And we'll all have challenges. We'll all have these moments and go, oh my gosh. And if you are where you are and you really dream to be in a different place, this is actually how you do it. You listen in, you hear the tips, you hear the authentic sharing that you've heard today, that you'll have many of those moments that are actually an aha moment, that you have the choice to step forward and to own your best self. And it's not immediate and it is a journey, but you have a tribe of women globally who will support you, in my academy, and definitely reach out to Sherese. They'll it's all about connecting with the people that, something that they've said resonates with you, and that's the best place to be. So thank you so much for sharing with me and all of our listeners globally today, and I wish you all the best, and I look forward to hearing about your future success. It's super exciting.
And thank you so much for having me. I truly appreciate the opportunity.
Pleasure. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Memoirs of Successful Women. You can find me at anniegibbins.com, where you can download my free resources, get connected on social, and check out my online magic transformation program. If you love this show, feel free to subscribe to future episodes, and of course, share it with your friends. I'll see you again soon, and until then, happy podcasting.